Mark chapter 6. Yeshua left there and came to his hometown, and his disciples followed him. The next Sabbath he began teaching in the synagogue. Many who heard him were astonished and asked, "Where did he get these ideas? What kind of wisdom has been given to him? What powerful miracles are being done by his hands? Isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son, who is the brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon? Are his sisters living here with us?" And they left him in indignation. Then Yeshua told them, "A prophet is only dismissed in his hometown and among his own relatives and in his own household." He couldn't do any miracles there other than lay his hands on a few of the sick and heal them. He was astonished at their lack of faith as he traveled around the villages and taught. He called his 12 and began to send them out in pairs. He gave them the power and authority to cast out unclean spirits. He told them not to take any provisions on their journeys except for a staff, no wallet, no bread, no brass in their money belts. They could wear sandals, but couldn't wear an extra coat. He told them, "Whenever you go into a home, stay there until you leave. Wherever people don't accept you or listen to you, when you leave that place, shake off the dust that clings to your feet as a testimony to them. I am certain that it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on Judgment Day than for that city." They went out and heralded that people should amend their ways. They cast out many demons, and many of the sick were anointed with oil, and they were healed. King Herod heard about Yeshua because his name had become well known, and he said, "John the Immerser has risen from the dead. That's why he can do these powerful miracles." Others said, "He is Elijah." And others were saying, "He's a prophet like one of the prophets of old." But when Herod heard about him, he said, "It is John, who I beheaded. He has come back from the dead." Herod had sent him and arrested him and had him chained in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because he had married her. John had been telling Herod, "It is against the Torah for you to be married to your brother's wife." Herodias herself was an enemy of his and wanted to kill him, but wasn't allowed. Herod was afraid of John. He knew that he was a righteous and dedicated brackets, Aramaic, Kaddish, man, so he protected him. He frequently listened to him and did what he said. He enjoyed listening to him. An opportune day came when Herod gave a banquet in the house he was born in for his top officials, military officers, and the leaders of Galilee. Herodias' daughter came in and danced, and she charmed Herod and his guests so much that the king told her, "Ask me for anything you want, and I'll give it to you." He swore to her, "I'll give you whatever you ask for, up to half of my kingdom." So she went out and asked her mother, "What should I ask for?" And she said, "The head of John the Immerser." She rushed back to the king and said, "I want you to give me John the Immerser's head on a platter right now." The king deeply regretted what he had said, yet because of the oath and because of the guests, he was unwilling to deny her. The king immediately sent an executioner and ordered him to bring John's head. He went and beheaded John in the prison and brought it on a platter and gave it to the girl, who gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard what happened, they came and took his body and laid it in a tomb. The envoys gathered around Yeshua and told them everything that they had done and what they had taught. Then he said, "Let's go off by ourselves into the wilderness and rest for a while." There were so many people coming and going that they hadn't had a chance to eat. So they went away in a boat to the wilderness where they could be alone. But many people saw them leave and recognized them. So the people hurried there by land from all the surrounding cities, arriving ahead of them. Yeshua got out of the boat and saw the large crowd. He had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. Late that day, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place and it's getting late. Send them out into the surrounding countryside and into the villages so they can buy themselves something to eat, because they have nothing to eat." But he told them, "You give them food to eat." They replied, "Should we go and buy 200 denarii worth of food and give them something to eat?" He told them, "Go and see how many loaves you have here." And they checked, and they told him, 5 loaves and 2 fish. He asked them to have the people sit on the grass in groups. So they sat down in groups of 50 or 100. He took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looked toward heaven, and blessed and broke the bread, and gave it to his disciples to set before them. They also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied. Then they picked up 12 baskets full of broken pieces of bread and fish. There were 5,000 men there who had eaten the bread. He immediately urged his disciples to get into the boat and go ahead of him across to Bethsaida, while he sent the people home. After he sent them back, he went up to the mountain to pray. That evening the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on land. He saw them straining themselves, rowing, because the wind was against them. In the 4th watch of the night, Yeshua approached them walking on water, and it appeared as though he was going to pass them. When they saw him walking on the water, they assumed it was a phantom, (Greek, phantasma), and they began screaming. They all saw him and were terrified, but he immediately spoke to them and said, "Take courage, I am. Don't be afraid." When they had crossed over to the other shore, they landed in the region of Gennesaret. As soon as they got out of the boat, the local people recognized him. They ran throughout the region, carrying sick people on cots to where they heard he was. Whenever they entered villages or cities, the sick were laid in the streets, and they eagerly asked him if they could simply touch a tzitzit, (tassel), on his robe. Everyone who touched him was healed.